we deliver an entire body.
Something like a consciousness is natively impossible. The difficulty in artificial intelligence, as the definition comes from, is in defining, what exactly is intelligence.
Welcome to Captain Bagrat podcast, where we're on a mission to fight boring news about Asia and Australia. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. And I'm his sidekick, Madam Chan. As always, we are recording from downtown Chinatown today, and we've decided to call this podcast episode Grey Matter.
Yeah.
Welcome, Liam.
Hi. I'm Liam. I think it's a Good.
There's an audience behind us. Yeah, they're all cheering.
Hi, audience. Yeah, everyone's clapping. It's amazing. Yeah.
So, Liam, what do you do?
What do I do? So I'm an electrical engineer. I'm actually about to graduate, but it's been a bit of a process. But yeah, my background has always been in technology, and I decided to study electrical engineering as soon as I finished high school, and I worked at a big factory and did that for ages. Then I went to China for a year and a half.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
To
study. I was studying electrical engineering in China, in Beijing, at Beihang Daxue, which is the Electrical Engineering and Aeronautical Engineering University in Beijing. And then, I returned this year, and now I work for a company called SmartStone.
Excellent.
We do virtual reality education.
Which is very relevant to your machine learning aspect.
Somewhat. I mean, it's technology. So my interest is really in business and technology.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity, luckily, to work in electrical engineering and see, well, I really like it, but I want to do something else. So, yeah.
Excellent. And I hear you're working on a thesis.
I am. So my thesis is titled, it's a bit short, but my thesis is titled Fast Object Detection on a Mobile Platform. So it's,
Okay. I'm giving you this funny look. What kind of platform?
So the idea behind a thesis title in general in any academic research is to make it as short as possible, so that obviously most people don't study, neural networks and machine learning in depth. So you really want to aim for a short title so that people get an idea. So from that title you get, it's fast, doing something fast, so fast object detection.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy to understand. And then on a mobile platform, a platform is a bit of jargon, but it just means like an object, right? So like a mobile platform is something that's moving, and we're doing object detection on it, and it has to be fast.
So are we talking about a car fast?
Yeah. So it's like a scaled down car. So it's a little robot. It's about the size of a hand or a foot or something like that. And it goes on a little test track, and
And the applicability of what you're doing right now will go toward one day to be used by, let's say, all the big vehicle companies who have self-driving cars. Is that?
It's definitely in the same vein as self-driving cars.
Mm-hmm.
My research in particular is focused on so academic researchers, if they want to make a self-driving car, so people who are universities, particularly in Australia and America, they don't have access to a full-size car to do testing on, because you need a full-size track, like a road, and a full-size car, which is a car, which both are incredibly expensive. So what most people do is they have a scale model, which we call a platform, which is just something you have a computer on and it drives around. The problem with these is computers are expensive for these platforms as well, and most researchers don't have a lot of money. That's just.
I think that's pretty. That's a good comment.
That's not a controversial statement, I hope. So at the moment, it's very difficult to have like these self-driving aspects. A lot of research goes into self-driving and neural networks, which we'll get into later.
Okay.
And a lot of research goes into object detection. So, this is a cat, this is a dog, there's something in front of me. But most people don't combine those into a single model on these little computers, because it's really difficult. The computers can't actually run it that well. Like they can't perform at a real-time speed, right, while they're driving. So my research is actually to combine those two methods. So self-driving, so looking at a track and figuring out which way to go and how fast it should be going.
Yeah.
And also, is there an object in front of me, and combining those into a single model that can run in like real time, like a human would, like actually driving on a track and doing both of those things.
Woo, okay.
Sorry.
I'm just going to
So the short,
for now. Let's have a beer while I consume all this information.
The short version, fast object detection on a mobile platform, is a lot easier to digest.
Thank you. And I think I grasp what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And so tell me, this is all to do with AI.
That's right.
And machine learning is apparently a subset of AI?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain to me then? Okay. So I want to watch videos videos, and well, videos don't exist anymore. It shows how behind I am when I'm watching
VHS out.
VHS, yeah, go back to the old days.
Yeah.
I go to the cinema still. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So when I'm watching Netflix,
Yep.
and there's TV shows about called Humans. There are TV shows called Black Mirror.
Yep.
There are TV shows called Orville, and they have aspects of all these sort of robots. They have aspects of human detection or anything along those lines.
Yep.
What are some of the shows that will be really relevant to what you're currently doing?
I mean, directly to what I'm doing, like, I don't think there's much on specifically it, but I mean, Black Mirror is just like the stuff that happens in Black Mirror is so applicable to real life. And I think the designers of that show, and I'm not a huge, film movie buff.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of TV, but like I've seen a lot of Black Mirror, and it is incredible, like how accurate some of the stuff is. Like the Chinese social credit system is directly in one of the Black Mirror episodes,
which I think is the one about the nosedive.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's called Nosedive. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, there's differences, and it's not quite the same, right? But it's a very similar system that they're proposing. I mean, I think in the episode Nosedive, it's a far advanced society, But there's similar things happening in real life. Some of the other episodes, especially concerning like advertising and promotion to people, like that's already happening. Like people already, like Facebook, Google, all of these, even small companies now are leveraging machine learning and artificial intelligence, which has been around for a fair while.
Yeah.
Just not as smart as we can do it now.
And just like how Netflix
they're leveraging, exactly.
Picks movies for you. So, maybe you should watch this because we've noticed that you seem to be going through a lot of these.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on a scale that is very difficult to imagine, but that there's an incredible amount. Like look at like Google and Facebook and TikTok or Douyin in Chinese. Just every video, it builds an algorithm of the person watching. It says, well, this made them happy. They only watched this for 2 seconds, so I might not show them similar content, or maybe I'll wait a while and then show them similar content. And also, it's this time of day, so maybe they don't want to see that. And I know that they're in proximity with this person, so maybe they don't want to see this.
Or sometimes they're listening to my conversation because something would pop up, like an ad.
I mean, yeah,
I want to go and travel. I was like, this is freaky. All of a sudden now I'm on my computer and an ad pops up about going to PP Island or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's and that isn't. I mean, it is like probably machine learning and artificial intelligence, but that's just straight up data collection. Yeah.
So there's another awesome movie, which is called Her.
Yep.
Scarlett Johansson and I can never say his name, Phoenix guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt it. Yeah.
I'm not going to attempt it.
Good movie though.
Exactly, where he falls in love with his personal assistant, which is the voice of Scarlett Johansson, but it's pretty much like
it's an artificial intelligence.
Which gets to know him, starts building all the data on him, and then he just forgets about having real relationships with people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a bit dark, I think, but yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this doesn't something like this, won't this impact on society and how we interrelate with one another? If can you imagine if people start just having relationships with their machines? And I think the worst case scenario out of something like the that TV show Humans and Real Humans, based on the real one from Sweden, is that you can end up having sex with your robot.
Yeah.
Because you get so attached.
I mean, that already exists. Like there's already,
that's true.
Yeah. And I mean, actually you're already interacting with your phone on an emotional level. Like what we were just talking about, Facebook, like what they're really doing is emotional manipulation, or they're trying to read your emotions, and that's what their algorithm is based on. It's not as simple as just, they might not know it, that's what they're doing. Or they definitely know what they're doing, but that might not be there. Like, it's not like they're saying, well, what's Madam Chen thinking at this exact second and what's her emotion? But the data that they're throwing into this machine learning system is your emotions, right? It's, how quickly you do something, or these are emotional things that humans are doing. The way you interact with any object is, at the end of the day, an emotional reaction.
And then they make predictions.
Predictions on that. So because the input to this is your emotions, then obviously you're already emotionally, controlling these systems. That's what's happening.
Great.
It's just so, I think the Her, yeah.
I'm a little scared by this scenario.
It is the more you study it, it's very scary. But I mean, you're already doing it. You just don't know it.
Because there was another episode from Black Mirror that you mentioned that I should watch, which was called Be Right Back. And it's about this lady who loses her husband.
Yep.
And her friend kept nagging her and go, hey, look, you should really sign up to this program or software department, whatever it's called. And then so she finally does do it because she found out she was pregnant.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so she signs up and starts chatting to him on was it on
It's like a virtual. It's essentially
Yeah.
like a Facebook account
Yeah.
that is for a dead person. Right?
Okay.
Well,
Right.
no, I mean like not a real person. Like
Yeah.
it's
Based on all his previous
Input, yeah.
interactions from or data, as you
That's
guys
right, yeah.
call it. Yeah, from Facebook, from YouTube, from all the videos, because
everything he's done, right? All of his interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what really freaked me out was that when they took it to the next level, when the machine, or him technically, said, hey, look, if you want, I can come to life.
Yeah.
And so then she obviously wanted that because she needed someone while she was going through the pregnancy. And
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, it was his baby,
Yeah.
or the pre-him.
Mhm.
And they delivered an entire body.
Yeah.
Him in a body.
Yeah.
So she pretty much grew a plant. She threw him in the bathtub, threw some water, and then this, what was some some powder.
Yeah.
And he grew into a human being.
Yeah.
Robot.
Yeah.
Equivalent.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, so that, like, obviously that technology is like, I mean, Black Mirror does walk that line, and I think at the end of the day, it is still TV. I think there's a lot of stuff that happens there. But yeah, I mean, from that point of view, what's so hard to imagine? I mean, it's a system that's taking, all of your input. I mean, imagine every message you've ever sent on any social media website.
Yeah.
Imagine combining all of those, but imagine not just the messages you've sent. Imagine them, you're responding to people, right? That's what communication is. So imagine doing that and, putting that information into the system. You could create your own Madam Chen pretty easily. People are already doing
someone could
that.
replace me right now. And
Yeah.
it's really, that would be
For
fantastic.
sure. I was doing some research, and there's a company called there's a company called Lyrebird.ai. So you can go to their website. They already, I think it's a paid service, but you upload, I think it's 10 minutes roughly of audio of you speaking, and they give you a script, right? They tell you to do this. I think you can do it without the script, but it costs more. They have to do some chopping and changing.
Is it because they need to know my tones?
Yeah, they're looking for, I think, as far as I know, they're looking for specific consonants and stuff like that, right? I'm not an expert on specifically what they're doing. I mean, speech synthesis has been around since the original Mac computer in 1980.
Yeah.
Like the first Macs had this speech synthesis.
Before you were born, yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Don't rub it in. I mean,
sorry.
But yeah, like they had this speech. So that's been around for ages. Like, we've had robotic voices, which you can tell it's fake, obviously. This company, Lyrebird, and I have no affiliation, obviously, but that you give them audio and they'll make an artificial intelligence that does your voice.
And then can make it into anything that I want to say if I type
that's
something
right.
in.
Yeah. So you type text and it just spits it out, Madam Chen's voice.
So then that's not the machine learning part. The machine learning part will be if we press a button, then it can just have conversations.
Well, they are using machine learning to come up with that at the end, right? At the end of the day, it's a model that takes a word.
Yeah.
So we had, I don't know if we should describe what a model is just quickly so the terminology is consistent.
Okay.
But typically with machine learning systems, you have a model, which is sort of like a black box, and it takes an input and an output.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole point of machine learning is to train a model.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine a human is a model. We take lots of input, like what we're seeing, what we're hearing, all of our senses. And then
we have emotional
Yeah, that's
data.
right. But I mean, without knowing how a human works, like not even just the brain, all the parts as a whole, right? A human couldn't be a box. We always talk in engineering about these black boxes. So you don't need to know how it works. You just need to know the input and then hope that the output is good.
Mm-hmm.
With humans, obviously, the good is
It's subjective.
It is very subjective. But so this model, for example, could take a word, like you would give it an English word as an input and it would output the audio of that word. So that is still machine learning. And then the process by which they get that model, they use machine learning to get that. Yeah. So you want to train a model, like you're training human the same way.
It's the same way. But there's another subset of machine learning, as I was doing some research on this, which is called deep learning. Which is the emotional side that they're trying to integrate into
Sort of. Yeah.
Sort of?
It's more like, so this term machine learning has been around for, I think 1959 is the original paper, and it's a guy who solves checkers, right? He makes checkers really easy. It's been around for ages, and then they have what they call that artificial intelligence winter, where no real progress happened because we didn't have computers that could do it fast enough. Basically, the way that they train is by iterating over a huge amount of data. So we need that data. A big problem: we don't have storage because we didn't have hard drives at the time, and computers were made mostly
chunky
vacuum components, like room-sized things. And then moving on, no one could really use it because, again, computers weren't a thing. And then at the start of the 2000s and actually 10 years prior to that, people rediscovered artificial intelligence because suddenly we had computers at home that we could actually use for it. Deep learning is a subset of that, where now that we have really, really cheap technology. I'm talking like you can see the curve of Moore's law, where the technology versus the cost of a single calculation, and it's just exponential. Like it costs nothing now for technology. So now that graphics cards, which allow you to run machine learning stuff, well they also work but they're cheap. Like well through gaming they've become much cheaper. But the average person is able to do this at home. Like I do my machine learning stuff at home on my graphics card for my computer built for gaming. Yeah. So deep learning is just a subset of machine learning and neural networks, and it's just really, really big networks. Like
so how far are we away from something that's going to be tangible? I don't know if you've watched Humans?
I have seen a bit of it,
where they actually become activated and are pretty much like humans. They have consciousness. So how far away are we from that? That's not singularity, is it? That's totally different.
I mean, that's what people talk about, the singularity. Yeah. And I know you brought it up earlier, and I did some thinking.
I get really excited.
I know. I mean,
it's like a robot.
It is exciting, right? Yeah. I mean, I think that sort of robot is not that far away, but I mean, something like a consciousness is, debatably impossible. Yeah. I mean, there's no real proof of that. And I mean, probably it's like it can happen. I mean, the human brain works, so why couldn't we just recreate the human brain on another scale? I think from an engineering point of view, it's just a simple numbers game. Like you just need to work out the technology behind it, and then it will be possible, right?
But all the complicated emotions and memory and dreams, how can you do all that?
I know, but I mean, a human is just a biological computer, really. I mean, that's all we are, is just a neural network. And the name neural network comes from neurons, like the human brain is made.
Which is all electrical energy, right? Passing through one.
Yeah, see, everything comes back to electrical engineering. I studied the right thing. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. I mean, people talk about, this singularity, and whether or not it will happen, I don't know, we'll see. But in those robots, I mean, Boston Dynamics, the company, they make like really realistic looking dogs at the moment that walk around, and obviously there's no head because they don't need a head. They just have a body and then 4 legs. But,
you don't need a dog with a head. You just need a dog with 4 legs.
No, it's not really critical. I mean, maybe they could make it a bit softer, but,
cuter perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty cute. I mean, I have a soft spot for them, but they're already, the animatronics and stuff is getting pretty advanced. So, I mean, in terms of human that works exactly like a human, I think that's like a long way away, but it's more of if it's something that we want to achieve, we could probably achieve it. I don't think it's unrealistic to be, I mean, the human body exists, right? So we can already, we're beginning to learn how to edit, and it's sort of off topic, but edit genomes and human genomes and stuff. And there's all these trials happening. So
cloning as well.
Exactly right. So if we have complete control over the human DNA sequence, then why couldn't we just create our own superhumans? And then the next generation would be, they have higher brain capacity, whatever.
I think they're trying to do
They are, of course.
But I think that's just, it's a very, humans are very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, and ethically, it's a massive grey area.
That's right. And then also on the level of talking about, robots who have feelings and consciousness.
Yeah.
There's ethics behind that too, right?
Yeah, of course,
so you're bringing something into life in a way.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, no one's really talking about it. But I mean, of course, it will be a huge issue.
There's a lot of high-profile people who are actually against the whole idea of...
Elon Musk especially.
Yeah, Bill Gates.
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought these people at the forefront would be super excited about what's going to happen. I mean, this is really intense stuff that we're talking about.
It is, yeah.
Creating robots that have feelings who can literally replace us one day.
Yeah, that's right.
Far more efficient than us.
I think,
that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would think so. I mean, I think the human brain is proof enough that we can create something is possible to build on that. You're starting from a good platform already.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephen Hawking's very against, I think, the idea of a singularity. I think. The quote from him is something like, a singularity won't happen because there's these physical limitations, like how big a computer can be at the moment. Yeah. We're actually on that edge at the moment in terms of computer size.
Glory, huh?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, that whole Moore's law thing has sort of collapsed the last 5 years and no one's noticed. Yeah. Like the PC industry hasn't noticed, but your Intel chips in your computer at home, they're not getting bigger. That's for a reason.
They're getting smaller, yeah.
Well, they're getting smaller, yeah. I mean, but the actual physical chip, the clock clock speeds aren't getting significantly higher. You're getting more cores on a computer, but you're not getting a faster speed because you can't. We're at this point where we can't make smaller transistors, or we can, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
And also they are unstable. And also you're getting to a point now where you have this big computer chip, right?
Yeah.
It's a couple centimeters across, but the speed of light actually can only go so far across that compared to the speed of an electron. So we're all the same, but yeah. So actually there's these weird physical limitations that exist. So people are saying the next step for computers might be 3D. At the moment, a CPU in your computer is flat. Maybe the next ones will be like a block, like a cube or something.
Cube shape.
But even then, right, if they go 3D, then there's still a physical limitation to how big they can be, and still be usable. So yeah.
Oh, this is really interesting because you mentioned that there's a lot of applications at the moment, such as cars that self-drive.
Yeah.
Also, Google and Facebook trying to predict what you would like, what kind of advertisements. Right. Is there an area in the industry that would really benefit from advances in machine learning, and that's sort of not being utilized at the moment?
I think almost every industry, and especially with my research for my thesis, it's focused on that low level, something that you or I could do at home, if you study it. So I'm actually it's a new computer board called a NVIDIA Jetson Nano. It's a small computer that lets you run neural networks on a computer really well at home. So
what do you mean?
Okay, so conventionally, a neural network, they make a model, right? We talked about a model earlier.
Yes.
Running that model can't happen it can happen in real time, but it's very computationally expensive. It uses a lot of resources. So graphics cards, they have a special technology by NVIDIA that lets you train them and also run them really fast, a model. So you have to run a model. You give it the inputs and let it do something, and then it outputs, right? Without getting into the details of how it works. So these new little computers that are coming out, Google has a board called the Coral, NVIDIA has a board called the Jetson Nano. It lets you run neural networks faster than you would be able to with a conventional laptop or computer without one of these special graphics cards and hardware.
Oh, you're kidding?
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding.
So I could get one.
And Intel has a compute stick as well.
So I could just go and get one, plug it into my laptop.
And it lets you run neural networks and models faster, much faster, significantly, 100 times faster.
I'm having a lot of issues at the moment with this.
Running your neural networks, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to call it a neural. It's probably 2D string network.
Yeah. Well, I think, so for me, that's the area I think that is rapidly improving, and Google's putting a lot of money into it, and Intel and Facebook, I think also, and Huawei as well. They have the Ascend chip, which is coming out on a lot of mobile phones. It's putting these artificial intelligence enhancing chips, lets me actions of actual developers, people that can actually use them. People like myself, I'm using it for my thesis because it lets me actually do it.
Can it write your thesis for you?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Oh, what are you doing?
That would be useful.
Do you know what? Every student around the world would love that technology.
Oh, of course, yeah. And I mean, that's also that, that's not impossible. And that's the whole thing with machine learning. Anything that a human can do, I think machine learning can do. The problem is that at the moment, machine learning isn't in the hands of the everyday person. It's with people who study either electrical engineering or some sort of engineering and computer science, or people who have the money to go and pay those people that know about it.
Do you know what? When you were talking to me this week and giving me some tips about, what to read for this particular topic, it really reminded me of this short story that I read from a Roald Dahl book.
Okay.
So, Roald Dahl.
I'm familiar,
everyone knows Roald Dahl. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it was in his book called Someone Like You. So these were his earlier works when he wrote really disturbing stories.
Yeah, I've read it. I've got a copy.
Oh, you got a copy? Oh.
Yeah, I'm a big book fan. Yeah.
Awesome. So he had a lot of dark stories in there, and one of them is actually so similar to what you're talking about. But obviously, when he wrote it, things were a little bit prehistoric.
Yeah.
So the story it might remind you of the story, but so it's this kid working for this guy. And he proposes to the boss, goes, hey, I'm going to invent this machine because I've always wanted to be a novelist, but nobody would accept my pieces. So I'm going to invent this machine, press all these buttons, whether it's a serious novel or it's a theme about war or it's how many words and also what kind of emotions I want this novel to have.
Yeah.
And then so he finally built it. And it just sounds like, what that story set is what we have come to on a more complex level. But Roald Dahl wrote this back in before during war and stuff. Yeah, so is that something? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, it's coming back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and so in the end he succeeds. So the machine is perfected.
Yeah.
So whatever criteria you want to put into it, and then the data it crunches, makes up a book, and it's on the same line as any famous author.
Yeah.
And so he brought all the authors out and said, "Hey, look. How about
let's just do this and sit back for the rest of the
exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's possible now. I just don't think anyone's. I mean, I'm sure there are people doing it, and there are, I've seen people who are attempting similar stuff. It's pretty easy. I mean, text generation has been around for ages. There's a lot of really easy to use stuff on the web that like stuff like Grammarly, which is does like grammar checking for you. They're actually they use machine learning because it just compares it to other stuff and it says, well, this is better than this. It's not like the old grammar spell checking, which just had a big dictionary in the computer. It had a dictionary and it just said, oh, this should be this should probably be this should be this. It's actually saying, well, based on all the text I've ever seen, this usually sounds better when it's like this, and it has a better emotional connection. Yeah, that's right.
That's the hard part, isn't it?
I think it's the easy part. The hard part is the data. I mean, the emotional connection. It's hard to define, but machine learning is great for things that you can't define. I wrote down, I had to think about it myself. And I came up with 3 things that machine learning is really good for. And there's some blurring between these categories, and it might not cover everything.
All right, go for it.
I don't have my degree, or I do, but
you don't have a degree.
So I will in a week. So it's really good for problems that are impossible to explain, for a human to explain. So stuff like chess, for example. So you've got a chessboard, right? How many? There's X amount of pieces in chess, say 20. I think is it 20? I don't actually know. I don't play I don't play chess. Each side has.
Do your research beforehand.
I know it does. It's 20. Okay. Anyway, so you've got chess, right?
Yeah.
So the number of potential moves in that game. So you have to take into consideration for every piece to be in every possible square that it can actually be in, depending on the rules, right? And then do that, and then do it for every piece, except now 2 of them are swapped, and now 2 of them are swapped. So there's literally trillions of possible moves, right?
That's right.
So for a computer to do that is actually impossible. It sounds sort of easy because that chess artificial intelligence will beat anyone. It beats the top champions every day, right?
My chess on my laptop, he or she always beats me regardless.
Exactly, right? But if you were to sit down and try and explain every possible move to a computer and say, well, if they do this, you should do this. If they do this, you should do this. It wouldn't fit in the space on your computer.
No.
You're talking terabytes and terabytes of information. That's huge. And it would literally impossible. I mean, people talk about the number of stars in the universe and sand grains on a beach. It's one of those numbers, it's unfathomable for us to even think about, right? So it's impossible to explain.
So machine learning does that.
It would take so long, right? So machine learning is the thing that, maybe not necessarily in your case. I mean, there's a lot simpler ways of doing that problem. No, I mean of solving the artificial intelligence problem. But it is used for that, and stuff like AlphaGo, the computer system that beat Go, which Go has even more possible. It has even more possible things, right? So it didn't beat it by what they say brute forcing. Going through every possible move. It's literally impossible. Or some stuff like heat death of the universe comes into play.
It was literally impossible to beat the computer.
It was impossible to describe every turn, every possible move, and every possible what you should do in that move. Because that is how you normally, if you're programming a computer, you say, oh, if this number is 2, times it by 4, something like that. It's just a simple rule, right? If you had to do that, it'd be impossible to do. There's not enough space in the universe to fit all of those rules. Next is, we've already solved those problems, by the way, with machine learning. That's done.
I'm like, oh my God, I even know about this. I'm like a nobody when it comes to machine learning.
Exactly right. So, but you've already heard about it, right? So that's the thing. So impossible to explain questions. So for a human to physically do it would be impossible. We've already solved that stuff with machine learning. We're still solving that stuff, and everyone said it can't be done, and then they did it.
I love these people. These are skeptics. Oh, it can't be done. You can't open a beer with your teeth. Oh, yeah, I can.
I mean, but should you? Should you create a computer? Anyway, no. So the next one I wrote down was complex to explain. So stuff like a self-driving car, there's a lot of road rules, right?
Yes.
But there's sometimes it's complicated. You don't want to stop. If there's a car in front of you that's slowing down, but also you should be speeding up, what should you do? That's complicated to explain, right? So there's set rules on the road. When you're driving around, there's set rules. There's a stop sign. This is a speed limit. You need to stay between these 2 lanes. So I can explain that reasonably easy. It's not like chess where I have to go through manually and do it all. We can using human language, we can explain it, and you can learn it as and everyone learns to drive, and there's not very many accidents. I mean, comparatively. So.
Okay. Well,
There could be a lot less if
Yeah.
everyone had machine learning, but that's digress.
but so if you're looking at Go and chess, you're set in a boundary.
That's right.
And it's very rigid boundaries, so that
That's right.
there is no variance. But when you're talking about driving on a road, there are so many other factors.
That's
the
right.
problem.
That's right. But this is like my middle ground one. But there are a lot of factors. There's a huge amount of factors,
Yeah.
right? But we
Rigid.
can explain it. But we can explain it, right? It's less. It's still rigid a little bit, but we can explain it, right? We can say, oh, you should do this. You should do this. You should do this. We're doing that now. Like Tesla's got self-driving cars already.
Yeah, we've seen some experiments of self-driving cars.
Well, I mean,
that did not go too well.
I'm making a self-driving car at home. Like it's possible. The last one I said is hard to explain. So we've got impossible, just jog your memory. Impossible to explain, complex to explain for a human, and then hard to explain. My example for this is pretty simple. I don't think we've solved it with machine learning, but why do we like some people more than other people? I can't explain that to you in words because it's just in my brain.
It's intuition.
I can say
as well.
I like the way this person looks, but I can't do that. You're right. It's intuition. So at the moment, we haven't cracked that hard to explain category. I don't think, and I haven't seen this anywhere else. But that I'm sort of putting all of those into those three things.
Breadcrumbs into that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So hard to explain that. There's another thing that I was researching. It was about the robot that went a little bit angry. Tay?
Which one? I don't know. I haven't heard about it.
Taybot? So she was a teen girl that was released, and then she became like a Hitler-loving sex robot.
Yeah,
very
that's right.
racist as well.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that is hard to
I think that probably the people implementing that is probably just mistakes on their part. We're talking about like that chatbot in Black Mirror and things like that. I mean, if the data going into it that you build to train a model, if that data is terrible, then the output's going to be terrible. Like that, they say in computing, they say garbage in, garbage out. You can't, there's a less polite way of saying it involving polishing, but you can't. So I think for the input for that, is other people. So people talking to this chatbot, and if someone says a lot of racist
negative
stuff
things,
on purpose, and then it's going to learn to say that negative stuff in relation to something else. It's at the end of the day a really simple, it's a very uncomplicated. It's just like, well, someone said this to me in response to this, so I think this is the most appropriate thing to say in this time.
So the next level that I can build Tay is for her to have intuition by saying, what are you saying? What data you're putting into me now is garbage. Hence, I'm going to ignore that and not have my output influenced by your garbage. So I don't turn out to be a Hitler-loving sex robot. Really, really racist.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the big problems with, people don't have a very good understanding of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is this huge umbrella term. It's actually, and I think it's a pretty bad term. I try not to use it too much, but it's impossible to avoid.
It's the easiest way for people like me to go artificial intelligence.
It's a computer obviously and people worry about the definition. Actually, the definition is simple. The artificial just means non-human.
Yeah.
That's pretty basic. The hard thing to define is what is intelligence. Is it human intelligent? Because I'm going to be honest. I know some people that I would call non-intelligent.
Yeah. But not. Well, okay.
Well, not.
Because there's street smart intelligence, and then there's book smart intelligence, and then there's emotional intelligence.
So exactly right.
It's hard to.
But even then, it's hard to do all of those things. There's people that excel at some, people that don't at the others. I think it's really difficult to nail down exactly what the definition of intelligence. I think that's where the difficulty in artificial intelligence as a definition comes from, is in defining what exactly is intelligence.
Well, I don't like to be intelligent. Is there AU, artificial unintelligence?
Unintelligence. I actually wrote down in my notes emotional, and I'd like to say emotional intelligence is actually, it's unintelligent, because it really is. No one's actively saying this is this person's emotions, copy them, but the computer does that based on the inputs anyway. If all of the input to a system is, emotional, then the output's obviously going to be emotional.
Emotional as well.
Yeah. So I think people have already, emotional intelligence seems like the hardest part of, creating an artificial intelligence, but I think it's actually maybe the easiest and the one that people are already doing the most. Like we talked about Facebook earlier, TikTok.
But that's just replicating it. I mean, sometimes the information that you feed on Facebook or, I know certain people
Yeah.
put on a persona when they have a Facebook page. So if that data is incorrect to begin with, then whatever you're generating, that particular persona, let's say the lover who lost that person and then regenerates them from that false Facebook page, then
it's not perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah, sure, but it's still based on their emotions. Maybe their emotions, the input to the system is wrong, but it's still their emotions. I don't think it's any less incorrect. And I think if it was an environment where you had, like you described, a humanoid robot and it was taking its input, as, from other people and growing up like a normal human child, then what would stop it? Like we're already, emulating emotions. What would stop this from happening? It's just that the problem is the data, the input to the system is wrong, because there's no way to just take emotion out of a human, like to put that directly into a computer. Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. The emotions and then the complicated intuition.
That's right.
That's the hardest thing. Like sixth sense. Like how can you put sixth sense into it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wrote the definition that I found the shortest definition, because we're all about shortest definitions for intelligence.
Oh yeah,
I found the ability to deal with cognitive complexity.
I can't deal with that.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm so great, but I think it's a good, simple definition, So when a computer could deal with, something really complex systems, and we already do deal with complex systems. So, in a way, artificial intelligence isn't this like pipe dream. It's something that exists and has existed for a while and is going to continue existing. We're just going to get better at it. And
then the computer's going to be better than us.
I mean, that's the theory.
It's the theory.
I mean, computers are already... I don't want to say better than you. I'm not trying to be rude. I mean, better than us as humans in general. I mean, add two numbers in your head. Add 2042 plus 608. A computer had that answer like in 0 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. So computers, depending on the metric, computers are already better than us. Can they do the full gamut of human expression and emotion, and can they paint an artwork? At the moment, we can't do that with a computer, but we can do some things like generate audio, stuff like that, calculate numbers. That's possible.
Or the core technical side of things.
That's right, yeah. So in some regards, humans are already, significantly better than humans in some regards. Yeah.
So what does the future look like? What do you think?
Oh.
It scares the shit out of me. But then also at the same time, I'm excited because there's so many applications that can be used, once they get the emotional side, done correctly and somehow melded into the system and the box, as you call it.
Yeah, exactly right. Like that's all we're doing is creating boxes, and that's all that we do in engineering.
But boxes with feelings.
Yeah, boxes with feelings and
so one of the guys over here, he has what's called a love box. Do you know who that guy?
I don't.
So talking about boxes with feelings.
All right.
So it's a box. It's a cute box.
Is this G-rated, this show? Or?
This is very G-rated.
Okay, all right,
so
good.
I'm not giving her a plug either, but it just came to my mind when you mentioned about box, and I was like, feelings into a box to make it have deep learning.
Okay.
So it's a
love box.
A love box.
Right.
So it's a product.
Okay.
So it's a 3D shape. You buy two. One for your friend or your lover.
Okay.
And you have the other one, and you can send messages to one.
Okay. All right. That's
And you draw stuff like I think the one that went really viral was the husband drew a naughty picture.
Right.
And when he sent it to her, the love heart on the box turns around and makes this noise, and she knows that my hubby, he just sent me something. So she opens the box and she sees that naughty picture and she has like a huge laugh.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I just thought
I've seen like I guess like growing up, I've seen heaps of I've heard of similar items, real and fictitious, that you can like touch something and it lights up in the other person's room, something like that.
But this is maybe the very beginning of a box with feelings.
Exactly right. And why do we create technology? We create
why do we create technology?
We create technology at the end of the day to enhance human life. I mean, that's the whole point of technology. So will we create, I think Elon Musk actually said this, will we create an artificial intelligence that rivals humans, right?
And he thinks yes.
No. And he thinks it's dangerous. And he's also, I think his other point was, well, why would we do it? What is it really? I mean, of course, maybe you can create your own person that always loves you and stuff. But, that would be so much more complicated, because if you do that, if we can create like a robot, then there's every chance that robot won't like me. It's the same as any other human. So, will humans create that? It just depends on us. Like, should we create that technology? And do we even want to create that technology?
And just on the topic of, going back to that TV episode, Black Mirror, where she brings her ex-husband to life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get her closure, right? In a way, I don't think she got closure because...
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you there.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your views on death, and it's a bit dark, but
Yeah, that is dark.
I mean, but fair enough. I
That's
think
how humans move on.
because from memory, that episode ends with it's a good thing for her, isn't it? I thought that it ended on a happy note.
Well, it ended with she kept him up in the attic, and she had the child in the end, and so she kept him along the way. And the child had access to him, but they could only visit him once in a while.
Okay, yeah.
So he was restricted use.
See, think about for yourself. I mean, if I was in the same situation, what would I want? Would I prefer to raise children who had no idea about potentially the mother, or would I prefer to raise children that they at least had some idea? Much more than you can get from looking at like a photo or even a video. You really would know someone on a bit of a deeper level.
But then you get attached, because even though it's a robot, but then you get attached and thinking it's a human, and then how can the child move on to build relationships?
But there's nothing to move on. There's nothing to move on to for the child. The child grew up. The child's introduced to this robot as a robot, and the mum said, "Well, even if it's introduced as a human, so for that effect, then what is the child moving on from? The child never experienced that death. The mum, the mum can say, okay, yeah, your dad died and this is a replacement. For the child, what difference does it make? If there's still a loving person in their life, then even if it's an artificial intelligence, even if it's a non-perfect artificial intelligence, which, they rarely are, especially with, what we do with machine learning at the moment, it's very, my whole thesis is about getting a good one. It's trying to find, the best way of doing this. So, even if it's not a perfect artificial intelligence, it's still a thing. I don't see anything for the child to move on from. Maybe for the woman,
the child wouldn't know the meaning of death.
That's right. Okay, yeah, but I mean, are they really sad? They never knew loss. They never knew something to begin with. If you take a kid's game, I used to get very upset with my parents. That's really
dangerous. It's just it means that people have the idea every human being is just disposable, and you can just bring it back into life again. I mean, I don't know about that.
I mean, I think in this example, because it's very it's recognized that it's not a perfect artificial intelligence. I think it's brought up that it's based on your previous messages, so it's not perfect. But I mean, people talk about that, the singularity, and one of the things people talk about is immortality, and can we upload a human brain into an artificial brain? Potentially, technologically, I don't know.
This is the next step, because
pretty difficult.
Yeah, because maybe 10 years ago, well, it's probably still going on right now. It's it's all about cloning, replicating. I think there are companies out there who, hey, we can replicate your pet.
Well, they just did one in China,
Exactly.
That guy paid, I don't know how was that.
Yeah. So they cloned the Dolly the sheep. They cloned all this stuff.
Yep.
So I think there's going to be a merge coming up soon.
Yeah.
Between machine learning.
It's no. You use AI it is a good catch-all term. It's just. I mean, you obviously understand it. I think it just gets branded about a lot, and especially myself, I work in the education industry at the moment. Just with this startup, and you hear it. You go to conferences and there'll be companies saying we're doing AI, and I'll go up and talk to them and say, I'll say, oh, so what AI are you doing? And I'll you can't see it, but I'm folding my arms right now, and they'll say, oh, we're not really doing any AI. We've got a book on machine learning and for children, which at the moment there isn't really any content that exists. And I'll say, oh, okay, and they'll be like, oh, they'll try and explain it to me. And I have a big interest in it, and I love technology, and I love artificial intelligence, but I'm not an expert. But these guys, they'll try and explain. I'll be like, oh, you don't need to tell me. I sort of get it, but I'm really curious as to why you put AI. I'm not, and obviously I'm not going to call people out. And, if they're doing their business and we're doing ours, but. A lot of people are using AI as this, buzzword, and people always use buzzwords, but as a buzzword for, this catch-all that they don't really understand. So I think people, the more education we can do, and getting these little computers into people's hands so they can implement artificial intelligence at home, I think that's very
accessible.
For me, that's the goal. That's what I'm sort of, not personally at the moment, but I'd like to aim towards, bringing artificial intelligence into homes and into people's lives, so that they're not something they're scared by, and it's not a buzzword. It's something that they realize is part of their life, even though it's already part of your lives.
Yeah.
You're already, your data's already going a million ways.
Yeah. No, I can see the positive side. And when you mentioned about bringing AI into people's life and little machines, I think there was another one that you said when it comes to healthcare and maybe helping patients who have Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So machine learning could be a big contributor to that.
Exactly. So think about we could keep going back to this Black Mirror episode.
Yeah.
what if the person is still alive? And I'm not sure if you've had the misfortune of experiencing, someone in your life with Alzheimer's, but it's pretty tragic, just to see someone just like you lose everything,
Yeah.
But
Have to repeat and
exactly
remind
right.
them. It's like the Notebook.
Yes, like the Notebook.
Just like the Notebook.
I mean, I haven't seen the Note. I haven't seen
the Notebook?
I have seen it, but like years ago. I think I was in high school.
Yeah, you get the drift. So yeah, you get the drift.
But So yeah, I mean, would that be useful? I mean, if you could create your own artificial intelligence and then communicate with yourself. Like imagine you've got.
Who are you?
But who else is best? Who else is best to tell you, your memories? Because that's a big problem with Alzheimer's is you don't recognize people anymore that you've met. You might not recognize that this person who, even if they've had a huge impact on your life, because I think typically it's younger ages that you remember, not older ages,
later.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in
your short-term memory I think is affected.
Yeah. So it seems to go backwards. The earlier you learn some memories, the easier it is for you to remember that. So, but if you could have all those later memories, which is your adult life, and then you could explain to yourself, look, anytime you're confused about something, you say, artificial intelligence, me, basically, what would I do in this situation? And then I don't know if it'd be a treatment tool. I'm not a doctor and I'm not studying Alzheimer's. But I think it would be pretty useful. I mean, I could imagine, someone say, I could imagine myself using that, saying, if I develop it and saying, well, what would I do in this situation? And, me responding as an artificial intelligence, saying, well, even if it was, not a perfect one, saying, well, I think you'd do this based on, these times, you would have responded like this.
Well, do you know what? I actually need it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sometimes what should I do? Should I go to the party or should I not go to the party? What should I say? How should I approach
exactly
that
right. What's wrong with having something? You're already carrying a mobile phone.
Yeah.
What's wrong with having a mobile phone telling you at the moment I think you're really sad. I think you need to go for a walk. And that's not like a based on a it's been X amount of time since this. It's like, well, you're not doing this. You're looking at your phone all the time. You're obviously really bored. Go for a walk.
Or it could tell me this is the situation. You've been reading through all my data on Facebook or listening to my conversations.
Yep.
What are my options? And then if that can generate options,
simple list,
a simple list, and then tell me, well, what are the implications or consequences? Should I do this? X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, well, thank you for thinking all this for me because it saves me from all this anxiety.
Exactly. So it's a good idea. I mean,
Oh, wow.
And if people can do that,
thank you.
Well, you're welcome. But if people can, implement this sort of stuff, and it's getting easier and easier, then I think that's what we need to do.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this whole development in the AI world.
It's exciting.
Subsets in ML and DL.
It's cool.
Acronyms.
Yeah, acronym hell at the moment, but
oh man, when I was researching this topic, I was like, Jesus, Liam, what have you put me onto?
There is a lot, but I mean, the good thing is, people are working on it, and it's becoming more and more part of our lives. And even though there are a lot of education companies saying AI, and there are actually a lot of people, doing more and more artificial intelligence
and it's
education.
more in our lives as well.
It is. It's the more you look, the more you'll find it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liam,
That's
for
all right.
teaching me about machine learning.
I hope it wasn't too technical.
Well, it was a bit grey.
Well, I mean, I think grey is the appropriate, it's not a black mirror we're looking into, and it's definitely not a white mirror. I mean, there's already companies leveraging it.
Yellow mirror. I've got my yellow shades on.
Yellow shade. But I really do think a grey mirror is, we need to be careful of artificial intelligence, and we need to think about it. But the only way that we can do that is if everyone's educated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liam.
You're very welcome.
Hey, thanks for listening to this week's podcast. For the latest updates and posts, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love it as much as Captain Bagrat and I do, please support us on Patreon, where we hope that our dream of having our own TV show will become a reality one day. So then we can continue to fight boring news on everything, anything, and nothing with an Asian twist. Thanks for your support. Bagrat out. Solid.